Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps, to my channel, Slime & Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, but mostly books. Today's video, however, we are not talking books, no! We are talking about movies, baby! Especially nostalgic movies, because this will be my TBW, aka my to-be watched list, for my old school April readathon, watchathon, nostalgia-a-thon event that will take place in April. Without further ado, let's go to this short intro, and when we come back, I'll give you lots more information, and we will go through all the movies I'll be watching, plus I'll have some recs for you as well. Welcome back, guys! Alright, before we get into my TBW, I do want to remind everyone that we do have merch available. These tie-dye shirts are not available anymore, but there's plenty of other great merch on the merchandise store that was created by my friend Rachel. Check out her Etsy store where she is selling our merch, and she has made a flippin' fanny pack! And I'm very excited because I do want to get a fanny pack. Plus there are stickers and mugs in addition to shirts, so lots of different merch options for you. And in case you haven't heard what Old School April is, as I alluded to, it is an old school related watchathon, readathon, and activity-a-thon. But even if you're not a nostalgic person and you really don't care at all about the 70s, 80s, 90s, or even before, it doesn't matter. It really, really doesn't matter. We have reading prompts, watching prompts, and activity prompts. All the prompts can work for you if you just want to join in for the event and hang out with a group of people and just have fun for a month. That's fine. You do not have to watch old things, read old things. You can make the prompts work for you. And a quick reminder that you do not have to do every single prompt because there's a boatload of reading prompts. You'd have to be reading like 40 books if you wanted to do every single prompt. You don't have to do that. You can basically do one prompt lots of times. One book can fulfill multiple prompts, and you could keep using the same prompt for multiple books, or the same prompts if you want to use more than one for different books. That's fine. Same thing with the watching prompts. You can use the watching prompts more than once. You don't have to do them all, etc., etc. You know, just use the prompts as inspiration and watch what you want to watch. Okay, and this brings me to my watch list. I made this standalone Old School April journal. I do have a full journal, like a year-long journal, but I decided to make an exclusive little one for Old School April because I knew that I would want to document a lot of things and I might not have enough pages reserved in my regular journal. So I do have all the reading prompts in here, and I have my TBR, which is secret for now. I will be releasing that right at the end of the month. Then I'm going to have some books I pick off of my shelves, and I'll write that here as possibilities as well. And here we have the watching prompts and a couple of pages that have my watch list on them. Alright, so that's what we're going to go through. I'll put timestamps below, but after going through my TBW, I am going to go into some movie recs, and we'll probably switch positions, and I'll record my screen, and we'll look at my Letterboxd, and we'll look at some watch lists from previous years when I did Old School April and what I watched for those previous years. But for this year, let's go. I'm just gonna read off to you the movies I want to get to. This is an absurd list. Like, this is over 45 movies. There's no way I'm gonna get to these movies, but these are my hopefuls, so I'm not going to be overwhelmed. I'm going to just get to what I get to. I might even put a lot of movies and books on wheels and like start using that during the month just to try to, you know, make decisions a little bit easier when you've got such a big list to choose between. So first I'll go through my priorities, and then I'll go through some movies that I would like to get to if I had time. Alright, first priority, my host movie recommendation, Goodfellas. I love Goodfellas. It's time for a rewatch. And my other host recommendation, Willow! There is a old lady, she's like a good witch, and in the movie at one point, Willow accidentally turns her into like a goat, sheep kind of creature. Anyway, she says his name, and it sounds like, Willow! Anyway, so myself and the other co-host we laugh about that now for some reason. There might even be a watch party for Willow, we'll have to see. Then another host rec, not from me, but from my friend Coral over at Pretty in Paper Cuts. She is another co-host. She has a host rec of The Great Mouse Detective, which is literally my favorite Disney movie of all time. It's so underrated. The voice actor who plays the main villain, Ratigan, who voices Ratigan, is Vincent Price. You can't go wrong with Vincent Price. It has one of the best songs in any Disney movie ever, and that's The World's Greatest Criminal Mind. The world's greatest criminal mind. Anyway, it's great. It's wonderful. I love that movie. It's kind of like a little spoof of Sherlock Holmes. And it's like a Sherlock Holmes version of a mouse, and that's Basil. Basil of Baker Street. Alright, moving on. A romance that I love, an old school romance. Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore. That movie is so nostalgic for me. Rufus. It's definitely a Rufus movie. Anyway, it's amazing, and it's got David Arquette in it too, who I really love. Next up, a movie I haven't seen in decades, Hard Boiled, which basically stars one of my favorite action stars ever, and that is Chow Yun-fat. He was in movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He was in movies like Anna and the King. I think it's Anna and the King. There's two that I get mixed up. It's either Anna and the King or The King and I, but I think it's Anna and the King. And also, he was in a movie that I really love called The Killer, which I have watched in previous years. Next up, Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls! Alrighty then. Anyway, I love this so much. My friend Cameron and also my friend Benjamin gave me this for my birthday, or it was Christmas, I can't remember. But anyway, I displayed it on my shelves because I love this so much. I'm so glad they got me the actual VHS tape. Yes, it's in there. Isn't it cool? Sorry for the glare. I'm getting too excited. I have described the rhino scene. If you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a birthing scene. I have described that scene in minute detail many times, but it started on one of the sprints we had last April, and people were worried about me. They're like, how do you know this word for word? And anyway, I have a vlog where I'm like documenting the entire scene from memory. And I do have a t-shirt with that scene on it. But anyway, it's a good time to watch freaking Ace Ventura 2, in my opinion, because I love it so much. Another very nostalgic movie for me is Dennis the Menace. I love Walter Matthau, and he is so funny in this comedy, this old school comedy. I will say that the majority of these movies on my list I have already seen, so just keep that in mind. I'll shout out when I have not seen a movie, but 99% of these movies are just rewatches and very nostalgic watches for me. Alright, next up, The Parent Trap, and there's two versions that I want to watch. The original with Hayley Mills, and then the remake with Lindsay Lohan, and I love both of them very much. It was a huge thing. My cousins and I used to play camp, especially my cousin Dana and I, and it was all because of the Parent Trap movies. Alright, next up, Teen Witch. This is going to be the third year in a row that I have watched Teen Witch for Old School April, and for each year it's been done as like a watch party. So I think I'm going to do a watch party again because it is a tradition. So I know my friend Cameron has watched it with me. My friend Benjamin has watched it with me. My friend Kelly has watched it with me for like the last 2 years. So it's happening again. We are watching Teen Witch, and you can't top that. You can't see it, but I do have a top that Teen Witch art print right here. Alright, another romance that I love, but I haven't seen it in so long. It's Say Anything with John Cusack, and we actually have a reading prompt named after this movie. Alright, Drive Me Crazy. It is another old school romance type of movie, and this one stars Melissa Joan Hart, yes, of Clarissa Explains It All, and Sabrina fame, of course. And this one I love so much, and I remember Britney Spears' music video for the song You Drive Me Crazy. It came out and it had the actors in the music video, so it's been so long since I saw it. I had it on VHS. A lot of these movies I did have on VHS, including this one, so stoked to revisit it. Next up, a very cute animated movie that doesn't get enough love, The Brave Little Toaster. There's a character called the Blankie, and he's like, the mask stew! And he floats and he misses his mask stew, and it's so cute! His voice is adorable, and he's the cutest little freaking blanket ever. I wish I could adopt him, but he's an animated character. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. And then a movie, really technically a documentary that I have not seen, is Howard. It's a Disney documentary, and it is about the music composer. I actually learned about him watching an old school documentary that I love called Waking Sleeping Beauty, and it's all about basically the Renaissance and the rejuvenation of the animation department in the late 80s and early 90s at Disney. Animation was basically dying, and then all of a sudden they had these huge hits, these gems that we look back upon fondly today. Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid. Well, Howard, he totally composed some of the most well-known songs from Aladdin, from Beauty and the Beast. Unfortunately, he died of AIDS during the creation of Beauty and the Beast, but he was still able to write some music for that, and he wrote all the music for The Little Mermaid. And we're talking about the lyrics and stuff. Next up, I want to watch The Parent Trap 2. It's a rewatch. I love it. The one thing I remember about the movie is they make a ridiculous mixture, like a cookie mixture, and it's got like M&Ms in it and tons of marshmallows and like all kinds of stuff, and I always wanted to make a cookie mix like that because they just were throwing everything in the kitchen into this mix, and there's no way it would have been actually good, but it looked kind of good. Another documentary, and it's Disney related. I've already seen this many years ago, and I actually have the movie poster for this somewhere, but I can't find it. It's such a great poster. Frank and Ollie, and it's two of the original 9 old animators. They call them the 9 old men. The original animators that basically, worked on Snow White, worked on those first classic movies like The Jungle Book, like Peter Pan. So Frank and Ollie were great friends. They lived across the street from each other after working at Disney. Even when they were old men, they've written books together about the history of animation and how to convey emotion through a character's facial expressions, animated facial expressions. And I would love to rewatch it. I love that movie, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. Next up, a Tim Curry movie, and we do have a prompt about specifically watching a movie starring Tim Curry. This one would fit for that, and it would also fit for some other prompts too. This is The Muppet Treasure Island, and all I remember from this movie is the song, "We've Got Cabin Fever! We've got cabin fever!" Anyway, that's all I remember. Next up, Return to Oz. I know my friend and co-host Cameron from Library Macabre. He loves this movie. It's very nostalgic for him, and it is a very creepy kids movie, and I agree with that. And speaking of Cameron, I do hope to watch his host recommendation, which is a compilation of a whole bunch of movies. Everything is Terrible, the movie. Next up, another host recommendation, and this one is my friend Christine's recommendation, I believe. This is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. As a preteen, like a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, I used to watch this movie and Ace Ventura 2 around the same time, all the time. I would finish it, rewind it, finish it, rewind it. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. Anyway, I could quote that movie all day. All right, next up, another host rec, and this is Kelly's host rec. We've got Now and Then. I love that movie. It's so heartfelt, so emotional, so relatable, and just so well made. Good acting in that movie too. Another host rec, this is Kat's host rec, Pretty in Pink. It's been forever and a day since I've seen it, so I had to add it to the list. An all-time favorite movie of mine, starring Bill Murray, is Groundhog Day. It never gets old to me. I distinctly remember watching it on repeat after I got my tonsils out. No, not as a kid, as like a early 20-year-old. I was freaking high on the medication, and I was like, ugh, and all I can remember is like the DVD menu of Groundhog Day. But I've seen this movie so many times. Don't drive angry. It's so good. All right, next up, Alex's host rec, which I've never seen, but hope to squeeze in for this April. It's The Hidden, and I hear that it's good, so I trust Alex's opinions on movies and books like 100%, so I have a feeling I would love it too. Next up, a movie that is ridiculous, and I don't know if it'll hold up, but it's Jungle to Jungle, starring Tim Allen, and all I remember is the character named Mimi Siku, and I need to rewatch it, see what I think about it now. Martin Short is also in it, I believe. Next up, we're going super old school with a very old animated movie, Charlotte's Web. I think it's from the 70s, maybe even the 60s, but this movie is so sad. Can I watch it without crying? I don't know. I hope I can get to it, and we'll see if I cry or not. I know it used to make me cry as a kid. Another old school animated movie, but this was, not as old. This is The Land Before Time, and I do want to highlight that a lot of the animated movies I'm featuring, not Charlotte's Web, but The Land Before Time specifically, are movies directed and made by the wonderful Don Bluth, who a lot of people think his movies are Disney movies, but they are not. He directed movies like Thumbelina. He directed, like I said, The Land Before Time. The Fievel movies he directed as well. The Pebble and the Penguin, Rockadoodle, those types of movies. So if you like those, they're not Disney movies, they're Don Bluth movies, and I'm a huge fan of Don Bluth. Another old school movie, but this is not animated per se, this is The Dark Crystal, and of course this comes from the mind of Jim Henson. I haven't seen it in forever. Alright, next up, Anaconda, in honor of the Silver Snakes. Last year, I did not play any movies to do with the Silver Snakes. I think somebody played a parrot movie, and I played a barracuda movie, but no one played a snake movie, so I'm hoping to play Anaconda, maybe, for everyone this year. Next up, We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, and I want to see if this movie holds up at all. I just remember how scary the dinosaurs looked, and then they turned all nice. Black Stallion, it's a really great movie. Mickey Rooney's in it. There's a lot of time in the movie, there's like no dialogue at all. It's just a kid getting to know this horse on an island, and it's fantastic. It's very heartfelt. Another animated movie, but this one is super old school. This is The Beatles' Yellow Submarine. It is a trippy as hell movie. It is kind of creepy and weird, but I would love to rewatch this one for April. Alright, now we've got a Disney Channel original movie, and this one is starring one of the Lawrence brothers, and he's playing essentially a clone in this movie, so he's playing both parts. And it's The Other Me, and there's this great scene where he gets up on a freaking lunch table, and he freaking dances to NSYNC. Bring in the noise, bring down the house. Okay, anyway, I'm done. NSYNC! Okay, next up, a Disney movie, and actually, it's my all-time favorite Disney movie besides The Great Mouse Detective. The two that are my top fave of all time, and it probably will never change, The Great Mouse Detective and this one, Beauty and the Beast, the original 1991 animated movie. It should have won the Oscar, and it was actually nominated like alongside real films because they did not have a separate animation category back when this movie was nominated at the Oscars. So, in fact, Beauty and the Beast being nominated against actual regular movies is what prompted a whole animation section of the awards. I think that's so awesome and historic. Beauty and the Beast just freaking rocks. That's how good it was. It freaking changed the Oscars. Alright, anyway. Now one of my favorite sci-fi movies. I was obsessed with this movie at around 7 or 8 years old. The Fifth Element. I probably shouldn't have been watching it at that young, but I did, and I convinced all my friends when they would come to sleep over, even if they weren't allowed to watch PG-13 movies, I was like, we should watch this. This movie's great. It's my favorite movie. So we would watch it sneakily. Another Don Bluth movie I have on my list is The Pebble and the Penguin, and Tim Curry actually voices the villain in this movie, so if you want to fulfill that Tim Curry prompt where it says to watch any movie with Tim Curry, The Pebble and the Penguin counts even though it's animated because he voices a voice in the movie. Cameron and I have an inside joke about this movie, but I do want to rewatch it because I remember enjoying it the first time I saw it. It's enough. It's just an action-packed, drama-filled movie with Jennifer Lopez, and she's trying to escape a domestic abuse situation, and her husband's a D-bag. He's the worst. Next up, this next movie stars someone who is the complete opposite of a D-bag. He is pretty much one of the most fondly remembered people of the 80s and early 90s, and that is John Candy. And he stars in the movie I'm hoping to watch, or rewatch, for like the billionth time in April, Uncle Buck! I freaking love Uncle Buck. Alright, and because my book club, the Midnight Book Society, will be reading the book, The Never-Ending Story, I do want to rewatch The Never-Ending Story, even though I've seen it a billion times. I'd love to compare the two. And last for my priority list of movies is The Warriors. I have not seen this, but Alex recommended it in a video last year when she was talking about old school movies for Old School April, so I've had it on my radar since then. Alright, now we're going to go to some of my secondary priority movies. These are like a little bit less high up in my priority list, but I'd still love to get to them if there's time. We've got Corinna, and I love this. It's a little romance between Whoopi Goldberg and the guy from Goodfellas, of course, Ray Liotta. And I know that sounds odd, but it's a really heartfelt and sweet movie. I love it. Next up, Harriet the Spy. I'd love to get to this. I've seen both movies, Corinna and Harriet the Spy, rather recently, and that's why they're not higher priorities. Same thing with Legend. I watched that not that long ago, like just a couple of years ago, but if you're looking for a Tim Curry movie, Tim Curry plays the demon character in Legend, and that is a host rec from our co-host Venus over at Venus Escapes to Read. Check out her channel and all the other host channels linked below. A movie that just turned 20 years old this year, Napoleon Dynamite, and it's a classic. I saw it in the theaters, like in a sneak preview kind of screening, and I got a free t-shirt and a free button. It was so much fun. I didn't understand it at first, but the second time I saw it, I became obsessed. The first time I kept waiting for something to happen, and when it didn't, I was like, what? But then the second viewing, I appreciated that more, and I wasn't waiting for anything to really develop. Another movie that is just around 20 years old is The Princess Diaries. I think this movie is so much fun, And I love that guy with the M&M pizza. He was great in that movie. A super old school movie, a movie that I see very often, so that's why it's not a higher priority, is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the original starring Gene Wilder. Next up, another animated Disney movie. It's Black Cauldron. This one I haven't seen, God, since maybe I was 7 years old, so a very long time, and I hardly ever watched it as a kid. I just want to see what I think about it now. And now we've got one of Andrew's host recommendations. We've got Transformers the movie, which I don't think I've ever seen, and then also Amy's host rec I have not seen, Buffy the Vampire Slayer the movie. I have somehow never seen it. I love the TV show, but have never ever seen the movie. And then also Katrina's host rec, Frankenhooker, I've never seen that either. Then we've got The Mummy, which is my co-host April's host pick, and you can find April. Remember, she's not on YouTube, but she is on Instagram, and she is running our Instagram challenge, 6 Sad April. Her Instagram account is at Apple and Alchemy, and she recommended The Mummy, and I haven't seen that in ages, so why not give it a go if I have the time. Then a movie I almost completely forgot about, but Cameron mentioned it on one of his recent movie haul videos that he did. It's Prehysteria, with these little tiny dinosaurs befriending a kid, or vice versa, the kid befriending these little tiny dinosaurs. And I just remember seeing the commercial. It was like a Paramount movie commercial on a whole bunch of VHS tapes that I had, and it showed scenes from Prehysteria. Next up, a movie that is just about 20 years old, School of Rock with Jack Black. I've seen that movie a billion times, so that's why it's not higher up. And the same thing with my last movie on my list is a Goofy movie. And I basically put it on here because there's a big joke between me and my co-hosts. Check the map, Goof! And also my Patreon members and we have this joke. And I'd love to, just rewatch it because of that. But I've seen it a lot, so if I don't get to it, it won't be the end of the world. I've seen it plenty of times. So basically, that is my watch list, and it is massive and ridiculous, and there's freaking no way I'm ever gonna get to these. And before we switch over to my computer to record the screen, I did want to show you some VHS tapes, and you could find these streaming, but one of my favorite movies that is an animated movie, it's not a Disney movie, it's from, I believe, Fox Video, yeah, 20th Century Fox, is Ferngully, and this also stars Tim Curry as the voice of the villain Hexus. So if you're looking for a Tim Curry movie, you could technically watch this because he voices Hexus and he sings, and it's amazing. Toxic love. Anyway, it's fabulous. Next up, an underrated and not very well known Bill Murray movie, Larger Than Life, where he befriends an elephant. I think essentially his father or somebody leaves him an elephant. Yeah. It's part of his inheritance, and at first he's very upset about it, but then I think he gets attached to the elephant. Here we have an old school comedy, Mouse Hunt. This one was pretty absurd. I remember watching it as a kid, so there's that. You could check that out for an animal companion, just like Larger Than Life. Next up, Space Jam. It's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright. Anyway, I love this movie. It's so much fun. I could watch it 1,000 times. I don't care what anyone else says. I freaking love it. Next, probably one of my favorite VHS tape covers ever because it's kind of bent now, but when you got it brand new and it was pristine back in the day, this closes and it looks like a cabinet and it looks like you can open it with a key. And so the whole thing looks like a cupboard because this is, am I holding it upside down? Yes. This is Indian in the Cupboard. So look, it looks like a cupboard. Isn't that fantastic? What a unique design that they made it look like a cupboard. I love it so much. So you've even got like, where the key would go, the door, and there is where a key would go. I love it, I love it. All right, and not a nostalgic VHS because this was actually custom made for me by my friend Rachel, who, yes, did our logo as well. So check out her freaking Instagram down below. I will specifically link her business Instagram because she designs great things. And this is one of my most prized possessions now. She designed this VHS cover, not only the cover, but also made the movie into a VHS for me. This is a VHS of In the Mouth of Madness, which is an underrated horror movie. It is so good. It was my host rec, or one of my host recs, for last year for Old School April. So you can see on the front, it's about this author named Sutter Kane, and Sutter Kane is basically missing, and there's this whole big investigation, and the investigation is being led by my boy, Sam Neill. So Sam Neill is in this movie, and I freaking love him. And so he's looking for Sutter Kane, the author, like I said, he writes books, Sutter Kane, and so this, she designed it like a freaking book. So there are actual pages in the front of this, and it's incredible. You can even see like the beginning of chapter 1, and it has like all this copyright information. It even has like, okay, this is, you know, In the Mouth of Madness by Sutter Kane. It's so great. Anyway, I freaking love it, and there's pretty much my favorite scene from the movie where everything's all blue, hence why she made the VHS tape blue, and Sam Neill screams, and it's hilarious, but also amazing. So yes, this, I just wanted to highlight this. I do recommend this movie very highly, because if you're looking for a hidden gem horror movie, not a lot of people give this movie the props it deserves. It is so good. Now let's change positions, and we'll go to my screen and take a look at my Letterboxd and my Tracked.tv app. Okay, now we're over here by my desk, by my computer, and I'm recording my screen. Alright, so I'm going to show you what I watched in, let's see, this is 2022 for Old School April. I watched Hook, which is an amazing movie, and it's from 1991. I watched The Never-Ending Story, which I'll be rewatching, as you heard, again, or I'm trying to rewatch it again this year. Pee-wee's Big Adventure from 1985. So good, so classic. I love Pee-wee, but I also love Pee-wee's Playhouse, the TV show. So remember, you can watch TV shows. You don't have to just watch movies. We've got The Goonies, which, again, classic. I loved the Olsen twins back in the day, and one of my favorite movies of theirs is It Takes Two. So my other host recommendation last year was Free Willy, and I freaking am obsessed with that movie. I actually saw where Willie jumped over the rocks in Oregon. It was amazing. It was incredible. I had such a great time. Also, that's partially where The Goonies was filmed, was the area, Astoria, that I visited in Oregon. But anyway, Free Willy, it is an all-time favorite movie for me. It's so close to my heart. I would watch it all the time, even in college. Like, just to go to sleep, I would put it on and fall asleep with it on. It is actually like one of the kids' movies that I think has the most heart out of all the kid, like, family movies that were ever made. I think that one is one of the best ones ever, honestly. And that's why it was one of my host recs last year, along with In the Mouth of Madness that I already told you guys about. Another underrated kids movie, but it's an animated movie, Once Upon a Forest. We actually have a reading prompt named after this movie. It follows a group of animal kid characters, and they have to collect some plants to help save one of their friends who had been, like, poisoned by some gas that leaked. I love Disney Channel original movies. Two of my favorites, Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, and Smart House. I have a lot of favorites, but I rewatched those, obviously, in 2022. Then Growing Pains is a great show you could watch. You could watch the Goosebumps TV show. You could watch The Adventures of Pete and Pete. It's hard to find. You might have to look on YouTube for those episodes. I have them on DVD. Also, don't want to forget some horror stuff. I do love the horror movie Dolls, and I believed I watched that 2 years in a row for Old School April, too. Of course, you could watch episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? In this year, I watched episodes of Doug. I watched, it looks like, episodes of Pee-wee's Playhouse. Also, I told you I rewatched Teen Witch for like 2 years already, so this will be the 3rd year. Little Nemo, Adventures in Slumberland, a really underrated animated movie with a very creepy villain character. I had never seen Dreamscape, so I randomly watched it. It's from 1984. Wind in the Willows from 1983. That one's very nostalgic for me. I had it on VHS. The Show So Weird was a Disney Channel show, and it's like X-Files, but for kids. I do recommend it. Let's see. E.T., of course, is classic. I'm not going to show you my feet, but I will show you the sock. I have E.T. socks on right now. Be good. Anyway, isn't it amazing? That's such a great movie. Another all-time favorite of mine. Secret of Nim, that's another Don Bluth animated movie, probably his most well-known movie and his most successful movie. This was released in 1982. It was the first movie I think he separated off and did on his own after leaving Disney as an animator. Troop Beverly Hills, which I know my friend Elizabeth, who's a co-host, check her out at Elizabeth Sagewood. She loves this freaking movie, and rightfully so. It is so funny, but also it's got a lot of heart. The Dark Half I just watched for a project with my friend Kat, where we were reading and watching Stephen King stuff, so that's why I watched that. Also, Jacob's Ladder. If you like kind of dramatic horror movies, this has horror, but it also has drama. It has great acting. It also has very scary imagery. So Jacob's Ladder, underrated horror movie, horror adjacent movie. It's not pure horror. And also, that year I rewatched Gargoyles, the TV show. I rewatched, it looks like, the first 5 episodes, which it's a multi-part, basically, episode that almost was sold like a movie back in the day, and I had the VHS movie of the first 5 episodes. The other Olsen's twin movie that I love is How the West Was Fun. It just reminds me a lot of playing around with my cousin Dana, because we would always play like we were the characters in these movies. Another random rewatch in this year I did was Kazam, and it's kind of bad. Like, the kid actor in this is annoying, but it is a lot of fun. It is awesome when the candy rains down from the heavens. Oh, yes. I watched an episode, or 2 episodes, 3 episodes of Boy Meets World. I also had to watch this on YouTube because it's not on Disney+. My Date with the President's Daughter, oh yeah, my date with her. This was such a good movie, but it's so hard to find, it's a shame. And more Are You for the Dark. So that was what I watched for Old School April in 2022. I would totally recommend all of these movies, or any of these movies. Alright, so let's look at what I watched last year. I know I didn't watch as many movies. I rewatched Free Willy again because it was my host rec. I kind of watched Scream because there was a watch party. Watched lots of episodes of Rugrats because we did Saturday morning cartoons, and that's coming back. We're doing more Saturday morning cartoons. We played Bobby's World, X-Men, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? You could watch any of these. Remember that I'll be showing cartoons every Saturday morning, so you could just wait for me to show them, and you could join in on the Discord and watch along. So you don't have to pull them up yourself or belong to any streaming network. You just have to be on Discord and go to the voice channel and join when I have the party. I also watched The Rock for the first time because of Nicolas Cage, and I was like, oh, what is this gonna be like? And it was wild. It was ridiculous. Ghostbusters, I rewatched that because Amy did a watch party. Of course, I rewatched In the Mouth of Madness because that was my host rec. Homeward Bound is a great movie featuring animals. It's so well done. They just don't make movies like that anymore. I rewatched a lot of Ren and Stimpy during Saturday morning cartoons. I watched Con Air for the first time, and it was also absurd, and I watched it because of Nicolas Cage. I showed the movie Barracuda, which, if you're a blue barracuda like me and want to watch a movie about barracudas, I mean, this one's pretty terrible. It's horrible. There's hardly any barracudas, but as a group watch, it's pretty funny because of the ending specifically. For Saturday morning cartoons, we watched Care Bears. We also had a Snake Night, which we watched Kanan and Kel, Are You for the Dark? I rewatched 101 Dalmatians, the Disney movie. So much fun. I also rewatched episodes of Just Shoot Me and News Radio with my boyfriend Paul. I rewatched, during Saturday morning cartoons, The Real Ghostbusters, Smurfs, Inspector Gadget, Real Monsters, Winnie the Pooh, The Flintstones. Also, we had a watch party again for Teen Witch, like I said. I also watched The Muppet Movie, which is a classic. It's from 1979. You can't go wrong with that one. There also was a watch party for Bring It On, and it was so wonderful. I forgot how much I loved this freaking movie. I watched the pilot of ER, which is actually kind of a long episode. I love the show ER, one of my all-time favorite shows. And another all-time favorite show, actually 2 all-time favorites right here, Dawson's Creek and Buffy. I had watch parties for these episodes. We also had more cartoons, DuckTales, more Scooby-Doo, Super Mario Brothers Super Show, Garfield and Friends, Courage the Cowardly Dog, which I had somehow never seen. And I also rewatched the Disney movie The Rescuers, the first one, and that one's actually set like in the bayou, not too far from where I actually am. So that's fun. Alright, so I believe that's everything. I did watch some things in 2021, even though I don't know if I had an official Old School April. I watched Ghostbusters 2, would recommend. Animaniacs, there's new Animaniacs you could watch, and old Animaniacs. Blank Check, which is a ridiculous movie from back in the day, from 1994, but fun. Pulp Fiction, can't go wrong with that. Wizard of Oz. Kat and I did a musical marathon this year, so that's why there's so many musicals. Singing in the Rain, Grease, all that would work. Willy Wonka is on my actual watch list. Labyrinth would work for any kind of watch, for a lot of the watch prompts, at least one of them. Hello Dolly would work. Cats, the musical, would work. See, I even watched School of Rock back then. Popeye, great movie starring Robin Williams, that's underrated as hell. Alright, now I'm going to pull up, let me get it over here, my Letterboxd quickly, and just go through some things that I might have not mentioned already. The Deer Hunter, if you like the Godfather movies, you might like The Deer Hunter. It's even darker than the Godfather movies. Lots of violence, lots of hard to watch things, because it's about a group of men who go off to fight in the Vietnam War, and they're forever changed and messed up. But there's a long, drawn-out exposition of, like, this wedding and wedding reception, so that kind of drags out. It's a good chunk of the movie, so you can, you know, see the characters before they leave for the war. So if you can handle that, the acting cast is incredible. We've got Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep's in this, Christopher Walken. It's really, really good, and I hear nobody ever talking about it. It's from 1978. Another great old school, this is horror, from 1978, is Magic. This one's horror. Deer Hunter's just a drama, but it's got some horrific things in it, so that's where the difference is. Of course, if you want to go the horror direction and watch old horror movies, you can. You know, of course, you can't go wrong with Halloween if you do that. Watership Down is not a freaking horror movie, but it kind of watches like one. So I think that could be a good one you could watch. Let's see. Any that stand out? Of course, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the animated The Hobbit from 1977. You got some more horror here with Carrie and The Omen. You could watch that. One of my favorite underrated classics, I mean, it's a famous classic, but I don't know a lot of people who love it as much as me. Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino. The Rocky Horror Picture Show would be a great nostalgic watch for anybody. Eraserhead, Star Wars, Suspiria, Rocky. If you like slasher movies, Alice Sweet Alice is kind of a slasher. It's like right on the cusp of being one. Monty Python and the Holy Grail, if you like comedies. Giallo movies, Deep Red. Horror movies, we got Jaws, The Exorcist. Duel was fun. Let's Scare Jessica to Death. Again, that is also a horror movie, so if you don't like horror, stay away from that. The animated little short, The Lorax. That's a Dr. Seuss story, but it was animated into like a little mini, I guess, movie in a way. That one's awesome. If you're looking for an Easter horror movie that's really corny and cheesy and terrible, Night of the Lepus, and I did show that as a watch party last year. And last but not least, I do want to call out, of course I already mentioned The Godfather, but a great war movie that also has some comedy and stars Clint Eastwood and a ton of other famous people, Kelly's Heroes. Really a unique war film, and it's more of like a not depressing type of war film. It's an action movie, and it's a lot of fun, actually. It's weird to say that a war movie is a lot of fun, but this one kind of is. It's basically about this battalion who decide to go rob a Nazi bank, even though they're not supposed to be doing that. They just said, let's just go rob this Nazi bank, and it's pretty awesome. All right, let's go into the 80s. See if I have anything to mention here. All right. I'm not going to call out holiday movies for Christmas and stuff, but I will call out Halloween movies if one strikes my fancy, because, you know, April is halfway to Halloween. So you could watch a Halloween movie, not just from the Halloween franchise. I mean, any movie that features any kind of Halloween-y aspect you could watch, and it would work because it's halfway to Halloween. All Dogs Go to Heaven is another Don Bluth animated movie that deserves a lot more love. Kiki's Delivery Service, it is an anime movie that I really enjoy. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the old school Tim Burton Batman from 1989. Of course, we've got a classic drama, Dead Poets Society, another great Robin Williams movie. One of my favorite horror movies, it is a little cheesy, but I love it personally, Pet Sematary from 1989. This is the movie with Chow Yun-fat I was describing earlier that I love, The Killer. Shocker, a movie I just watched recently within the last like 12 months, and it's hilarious and ridiculous. The Church is a great horror movie. The Burbs is a great movie, period. Intruder is one of my favorite like slasher movies ever. It's low budget, but very creative with its kills. So if you like horror, check out Intruder. It's kind of a under-recognized movie, in my opinion. Twins is a nostalgic movie you could pick up. We've got Oliver and Company, a great old school Disney movie. Course, any of the Hellraiser movies I would recommend because that's like one of my favorite horror franchises. So if you like horror, can't go wrong. If you like action, Die Hard's great. Phantasm 2 is my favorite of the Phantasm movies. I've only seen 1 and 2, but I love Phantasm 2. It's so much fun and wild and ridiculous. So if you're looking for horror, that's a good one too. Big is just a great dramatic film, a family-friendly movie. Another great horror movie, The Serpent and the Rainbow from 1988. That's directed by Wes Craven. A lot of people don't really pay much attention to that movie, but it is good. The Princess Bride. I just watched Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. It's a horror movie. That one's fun. Full Metal Jacket, Predator. Those are classic movies. We've got, let's see, Jaws the Revenge, which is ridiculous. Ghoulies 2, which is also ridiculous but fun. The Gate. Raising Arizona. Aquarius, if you're looking for a great, underrecognized, hidden gem of a horror movie that has great visuals, stage fright. It's a little weird, but I think it's amazing. It's one of my favorites. We've got Maximum Overdrive. It's ridiculous. It's a very bad movie, but it is fun and over the top. We got Alien and Aliens you could watch, The Fly, The Karate Kid, any of the Karate Kid movies. The Troll movie is funny, has no relation to Troll 2, they're completely different movies, but I just watched Troll for the first time and it was a lot of fun. Short Circuit, Teen Wolf also would be a fun one to watch. A great adaptation from a Stephen King story, we've got Silver Bullet the movie, which I love. Clue, any of the Rocky movies, because I'm a big Rocky fan. That franchise is like banger. I love that franchise. Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L. This movie was on TV back in the day all the time when I was a kid. The Stuff, that's a fun kind of horror movie. It's not a super serious and scary one, but it's horror. Splash, Terminator movies, Star Wars movies, Stripes, classic. Annie, I love that. It's such a great old school musical. And by the way, a young Tim Curry is in it. It's from 1982. You could count that for the prompt about watching a Tim Curry movie. Would totally work. Any of the Star Trek movies, you could do the original Star Trek movies or the Next Generation movies. Underrated musical, The Pirates of Penzance. Nobody but me cares about it. It's fine. A wonderful horror movie that me and Kat love, Alone in the Dark. We only love it because of one scene, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. If you're looking for carnival and fall vibes, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Very hard to find streaming, though. Time Bandits would be a great kind of a kids-adjacent movie, but it has some creepy things as an adult. When you look back on it, you're like, why was I allowed to watch this? This is a weird movie. So we also have The Shining, which I freaking love. The Elephant Man, which I'm a big fan of. The Last Shark, which is a hilarious shark movie. If you like shark movies or slasher movies, my co-host Andrew and I will be having our own Patreon readathons in June, and it's going to be like readathons and watchathons about sharks and slashers, but you could read other, non-shark and non-slasher type of books, but we definitely want people to watch those types of movies if they're going to do the watching part. So join us, either of our Patreons, because we're doing it together, if you want to, for June. That's going to be what we're doing for June. Happy Birthday to Me is a super underrated horror movie. Same thing with Possession. Scanners, amazing. If you like dramas, Robert De Niro is amazing in Raging Bull. And there we have the 80s. I swear I'm going to try to go faster here. Galaxy Quest, Man on the Moon, Green Mile, oh gosh, Sleepy Hollow, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. That just feels super, super vintage, but it's not. It's from the 90s. Big Daddy, love that movie. Let's see. Another Disney Channel original movie, Can of Worms. The 13th Year, Johnny Tsunami. Johnny Tsunami is one of my favorites. Real Genius. Oh, it's just Genius, my bad. H-E double Hockey Sticks. Fight Club. Audition's a great horror movie. 10 Things I Hate About You, I like that romance. Office Space is a great comedy. Cruel Intentions, very dark drama. Stepmom, if you want to cry, watch Stepmom. I saw it in the theater, and I tried to hide my tears from my mom and my grandma because they were with me. Let's see, Night at the Roxbury, great comedy. SLC Punk, that one's really nostalgic. I haven't seen that in forever. Halloween Town, really good Disney Channel original movie. The Waterboy. Let's see, Rugrats movie came out in the 90s. Rush Hour, everyone remembers Rush Hour was huge back in the 90s. A Wonderful Romance, Ever After, starring Drew Barrymore. Of course, some great dramas here. Let's see. Out of all the decades I've shown you so far, the 90s, I've seen the most movies. I've seen 367 movies from the 90s. Alright, Air Bud is so much fun. Flubber, of course. I have a soft spot for Flubber. Have that on VHS back at my mom and dad's house. Rocket Man, I wish you could stream it, but I can't find it anywhere. It's so bad, but I have a feeling I'd love it today. Cinderella from 1997. I think I had this on VHS too. Star Kid, I saw it in the theater. Not like super great, but it was a fun time as a kid. Shiloh, I remember loving that movie. Again, I mentioned Star Trek movies. This is Star Trek First Contact. I was obsessed with this movie as a kid, watched it so many times. You can't go wrong with any of the Jurassic Park movies. My Best Friend's Wedding. I hate the dude in this movie. I hate him. Mars Attacks, if you kind of want like a little bit of horror in your movie, but it's still not too horror heavy. I think this one would be a good choice for you. Let's see. Of course, the Spice Girls movie is here. You got the Scream movies, the Big Lebowski. All right, let's see. Fly Away Home is one of the most underrated kids/family movies ever. If you're going to check out one movie that I've recommended that you may not have heard of, let it be Fly Away Home, because I think that one's so good and you can appreciate it no matter what age you are. It has so much heart and emotion to it, and every time I watch it as an adult, it's still really enjoyable. You can't find Susie Q. I wish you could. I can't find that streaming. I'd watch that in a heartbeat if I could find Susie Q. Fargo's a great movie. Happy Gilmore's fun. Mr. Holland's Opus, that one is really good, and it's very nostalgic because it actually goes through multiple years, and you get like little things from popular culture kind of shown in the movie. Empire Records is definitely super old school themed. Of course, like I said, Ace Ventura, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, Congo, all of these bring back such great memories. Tommy Boy, I love Tommy Boy. Fat guy in a little coat. Twister, can't go wrong with Twister. Alright, you could see that. Let's go to the next page. I saw Operation Dumbo drop on there too. That one, I forgot about that movie. Alright, let's see. Oh yeah, that's a great movie. The Usual Suspects. I should rewatch that. Richie Rich. I've seen that a billion times. The Page Master, so good. I think The Page Master deserves like 400 times more love than it gets. The Swan Princess, I love that animated movie. It's not Disney, but it's still good. Shawshank Redemption, one of my all-time favorites. Little Giants, it's a great kids movie featuring sports. The Next Karate Kid, like I said, you can't go wrong with any Karate Kid, but as a kid, my favorite was The Next Karate Kid, even more than The Karate Kid. Alright, Thumbelina, that's another Don Bluth movie, not Disney. You could watch any of the Mighty Ducks movies for our prompt about, watch a movie featuring sports. Those movies would work. Any of them. There's 3 of them. Wolf is kind of a drama, kind of has horror elements. Jack Nicholson turns into like a wolf man, and it's freaking hilarious and dumb. Alright, The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Three Musketeers has Tim Curry in it, and it's a lot of fun. He plays a villain, yet again. A lot of the movies I'm talking about, he's a villain. Oh my gosh, Mrs. Doubtfire, one of my favorite movies of all time. Hello! The Secret Garden. Sandlot, you can't go wrong. Super Mario Brothers. It's a terrible movie. I don't care. I still love it. Angels in the Outfield, Rookie of the Year, more sports-related movies for our prompt that says to watch a sports-related movie. Any of those would work. Coneheads. If you want to celebrate halfway to Halloween, Hocus Pocus. You could watch any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. The Fievel movies, as I mentioned earlier. Oh, Cape Fear. You could watch that because actually there's an old school black and white movie version of Cape Fear, but there's also a remake with Robert De Niro from 1991 that's really good. Both versions of the movie are good, so you could watch either, and it could work. An animated movie that I feel like nobody but me talks about ever. I used to love this as a kid. Freddy the Frog, and this one, it's kind of like a frog version of 007. It's really weird, but I had it on VHS growing up. The Honey, I Shrunk the Kid series. There's also Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, as you see here. You got It, you could watch. The mini-series. Misery, which is fantastic. If you want a more powerful, deep, emotional movie, Awakenings, that has Robert De Niro and Robin Williams, and it's really impactful. Popcorn is a great underrated horror movie. You could also watch The Neverending Story too. You don't have to just watch one. And Troll 2, one of the best worst movies ever made. I have to call that out and say, don't forget about that. Another great horror movie, Candyman, of course. Just a great movie in general. Falling Down from 1993. Total Recall I see down there. Alright, and Pretty Woman, don't want to forget that. Nightbreed's great, of course based upon the book Cabal by Clive Barker. The Witches is fantastic with Angelica Houston. Dances with Wolves, any of the Back to the Future movies, any of the Tremor movies. All of those would work for Old School April, baby. let's go to the 2000s, and I'm only going to show you stuff from 2000 to 2004, so don't worry. We're almost done. Miss Congeniality, What Women Want, Castaway especially. The Sixth Day is terrible looking at it today, but I love this movie when it came out and for years after. Unbreakable is a good one. Bruce Willis is in that. Phantom of the Megaplex is a really good DCOM. Of course, Disney Channel original movie. That's what DCOM means. You've got Charlie's Angels, which was a big deal back then. Meet the Parents was huge back then in 2000. Perfect Storm, I remember seeing that in the theater. I loved Shanghai Noon as well. I was a big Jackie Chan person. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, just to mention that again, with Chow Yun-fat. Love him, great actor. Model Behavior, I wish I could watch this. Justin Timberlake's in it, and I cannot find this anywhere. Same thing with Life Size. This was such a great movie. Can't find it anywhere. It's not streaming that I know of. I wish it was. I will never watch Requiem for a Dream again. It's too depressing, so I will not be recommending that unless you like sad movies. Same goes for Dancer in the Dark. I will never watch it again. It is too sad. It is sad as hell, and I don't need to watch it ever again. 2001, let's see. Save the Last Dance. I love that movie. It actually got me to go back to dancing because I had quit dancing and done other things for a while, and I was like, I want to go back to dance class when I saw this. Donnie Darko, if you want to celebrate halfway to Halloween, there's a great Halloween party scene, and it's just a fantastic movie all around. Of course, I like cheesy old school romances, so The Wedding Planner, I really enjoyed that back in the day. I haven't seen it in a while, but Legally Blonde, another one that I love. Session 9, underrated horror movie. Some people hate it. I personally love it. Let's see, Training Day. Zoolander, I watched this recently, and it's still fun as hell to watch. Even so many years later. More than 20 years later. Let's see. Of course, any of the early Harry Potter movies would be good. Ocean's 11, Lord of the Rings movies. All of those. I Am Sam was a great movie. I remember loving that. Signs. Oh, it's so good. Gangs of New York with Leo DiCaprio. Catch Me If You Can, also with Leo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. Another cheesy romance movie with Jennifer Lopez, but I like it. Made in Manhattan. Of course, 8 Mile. That was such a huge movie back in the day. The Master of Disguise. Terrible, but me and Andrew, my co-host, we have jokes about this movie. So, you know, whatevs. We like it. The Mothman Prophecies with Richard Gere. Love this. Very 2000s horror movie. Another old school romance that I like. A Walk to Remember. That one's really heartfelt. Of course, The Ring, I think, is one of the best horror movies of all time. Of course, the American version. I like the Japanese version too, but it's not my favorite. This is a weird movie. If you want weird stuff, Adaptation. This is with Nicolas Cage. Lost in Translation, wonderful movie. Kill Bill. School of Rock, like I talked about earlier already. The Haunted Mansion. Big Fish doesn't get enough love either. Seabiscuit, I really enjoyed that. Mystic River. I really do like this movie too. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. This one, no one ever talks about. This movie is very powerful, very dark, really great drama. 13 from 2003. I definitely recommend this, but it is a heavy, heavy movie. It's not light. It's very heavy and dark. Holes, that definitely reminds me of middle school because everyone was reading the book. And then, of course, the movie came out and it got even more popular. Willard, you know, not the best horror movie, but it is fun in my opinion. Freddy vs. Jason, same thing, still fun. Freaky Friday, it's a remake of an older movie, so you could check out either Freaky Friday movie. Again, as long as your movie matches at least one prompt, you can check it out. I'm just giving you ideas of movies that I have loved that definitely would work just because of when they were released, but you could watch newer movies as long as it fits a prompt, at least one prompt. Quickly, the last year I'm going to go over here, 2004, we've got The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, probably my favorite Bill Murray movie besides Ghostbusters. It's very, very, very artistic, but I personally love it. It's a Wes Anderson movie from 2004, so it's just 20 years old. Let's see. I love all the Ocean's movies. The Village, everyone crapped on it when it came out, but I rewatched it and it really isn't bad. Everyone loves The Notebook. It's not my favorite, but I like it. Dodgeball, if you're a snake, you should watch Dodgeball. Tap, tap, like I said, Napoleon Dynamite just turned 20. 13 going on 30 would be a great, appropriate watch because it's all about, like, getting older, but, like, you know, connecting back with your childhood. If you want a sad romance, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Miracle's a great sports-related movie. Documentary, Super Size Me. I enjoyed that back in the day. Don't know how good it would be to watch it today, but So there's plenty of possibilities for you guys. Those are all my recommendations. It was way too many. Way too many. I hope you guys enjoyed. So sorry this is so long. But if you are going to watch any of these movies, or if any of these movies sound good to you, leave that in the comments below. What are you looking to watch in old school April? You could also comment that below. Thank you guys so much for watching, but for this time, that's it for me. Till next time, guys, you know what you can do. Keep on killing it, and get ready to kick it old school. Bye, guys.